Hey, I'm Trey, and I have a new story for you today about another serial killer. Life is all about choices. Every day we make choices that could cause us to be killed. You might want to stick around to the end of the story because you're not going to believe how they apprehended this guy. If you enjoy stories like these that remind you to be vigilant when protecting yourself and your loved ones from killers amongst us, then subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification button and also the like button so you can be reminded of new content that I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Also, if you could leave your comments in the comments section, I'd really appreciate some feedback on the video and or the channel. Well, if you're ready, let's get started. December 1978, in the country of the Czech Republic, near the city of Deccan, a woman by the name of Eva decided to go to a local movie theater. She was married at the time and used this opportunity to have a break from her husband. I guess they have those type of problems in the Czech Republic as well. Unbeknownst to her husband, she had intentions on a rendezvous with a new lover after the movie. I guess no country holds a monopoly on infidelity. When the movie was over, she made her way to the secluded area which was prearranged with her male friend. Unfortunately, the male friend forgot that they were supposed to meet up, so Eva waited there patiently all alone. An unknown man approached her in this isolated area and tried to initiate small talk. His advances were rejected. The stranger got into arm's length of Eva, and as soon as this happened, he began to savagely beat her to the ground and then began to stomp her with his feet, rendering Eva semi-unconscious. The attacker then dragged her unresponsive body down an embankment near the railroad track. The attacker then strangled Eva to death. This is where the attacker stripped off her clothing and began to ejaculate on her dead body. The body of Eva was found the following day, and the police immediately sought out her lover as the prime suspect. Since DNA research was not available at this time, the actual killer was not known. During the investigation, it was determined that Eva had several lovers, unbeknownst to her husband. This allowed the actual killer to not be held accountable for at that time. In February of 1980, a woman by the name of Ivana was riding the train with her husband from Prague to Deccan. Her husband, whose name was not provided, got off the train a stop before Deccan for his job. Ivana continued on the train to the next stop. Before exiting the train, she chose to use the bathroom. An unidentified man followed her to that bathroom. When Ivana tried to exit, the man walked behind her, snatched her scarf that was draped around her neck while dragging her back into that bathroom. The stranger then strangled her to death with it. The killer then stripped Ivana of her clothing and then proceeded to ejaculate on the deceased body. What's wrong with this guy? He's a killer and a freak. When the train began to leave the station, the killer dumped the body out of the window. The railroad workers found the body the following morning. The police were notified and responded. During the investigation, it was determined that several people could have been possible suspects. The victim had several strained relationships with people ranging from relatives to acquaintances. Also, one of the railroad workers was labeled as a possible suspect. One witness did state that a military officer was observed fleeing from the train during the last moments of the victim's life. In August of 1980, an unidentified woman went to view the landscape from the shore of a local water dam. A man walked up behind this woman and grabbed her. The woman fought back but was eventually overwhelmed by the stranger and strangled to death. During the actual struggle, the killer ejaculated on himself, robbing himself of the pleasure of ejaculating on the actual victim. The killer was angered by this, so he tied the woman's body to a stone and pushed her body into the water. How does this guy have the nerve to get mad at the rape victim for having no self-control? This information was provided by the actual killer after the eventual arrest. The woman's body caused the dam to become clogged. Several days later, the maintenance workers were called out and the body was retrieved. The body was in an extreme state of decomposition due to being submerged underwater for days. Authorities were unable to identify the woman. She was only identified as a Czechoslovakian woman between the ages of 25 and 35 years old. In January of 1981, at approximately 3 a.m., a woman by the name of Ivana was seated at the bus stop near the local zoo. She was approached by a man who attempted to have small talk with her. The woman became scared and took off running from that stranger. The stranger took chase and caught up with her. He then knocked her to the ground and tried to rape her. During the actual fight, the attacker instinctively stabbed Ivana into submission. The killer then finished the job by strangling her to death. No, wait, there's more. The killer then went back to stabbing the victim out of frustration a total of 39 times. Then the killer commenced to cut off the woman's breast and genitalia using a pair of scissors. The killer collected the separate parts and placed them in a plastic bag. The killer also stole the victim's jewelry, wallet, and watch. The killer then took the severed body parts home and placed them on his table. This killer then proceeded to separate the breast and place them in the refrigerator. The killer then proceeded to penetrate the genitalia with his penis. The killer then placed the remaining parts in his refrigerator. A week later, the killer then cooked the breast and genitalia. He then consumed some of it with some mustard and some horseradish. The killer was not fond of his meal, so he discarded the rest of the genitalia and breast down the toilet. I'm sorry, what the F was that? I mean, like, serious. The body was collected by the police, but due to the seclusion of the area, unfortunately, the police had no witnesses or leads at that time. In October of the same year, at approximately 11 p.m. in the city of Prague, the strange man wandered around this particular neighborhood due to boredom. As he paced the area, he came across a woman by the name of Anna. Anna was a 51-year-old woman who was returning from a concert she had just enjoyed. The stranger became attracted to the woman and attempted to initiate small talk. When Anna rejected his conversation, the man pulled out a knife and threatened to kill her with it. The attacker then began to forcibly rape the woman at knife point. After he was done, he strangled her with the torn part of her dress. This attack had concerned the murderer due to the location where it occurred and the victim giving out an ear-shattering scream that drew attention from the people in the area. The killer noticed this as he walked away calmly. Realizing he would need a good alibi, the killer decided to go into work that evening. He worked as a glass blower, and his job always had overtime available for employees to help meet the demand. The police still had no leads or witnesses for this case. Come on now, I guess the police were waiting for the killer to turn himself in out of guilt. Several weeks later, the killer observed a young girl sitting at a bus stop. While waiting, the stranger attempted to rape the young girl at knife point, but had an erection problem. This guy is mad at women because his plumbing is broke. Fearing for her life, the young girl complied with his sexual instructions. After submitting to her attacker sexually, he began to have trust for her. The young girl was able to persuade the attacker to come back home with her, where they can continue to have sex. When the attacker dropped his guard, the victim took off running. After a short distance, she was apprehended by the attacker and knocked to the ground. He then commenced to punch her about the face and head until an off-duty police officer, yelling from his apartment window, demanded that he stop hurting her and allow her to leave. The attacker then fled the location. You're not going to believe how the police were able to capture this killer. It's like Silence of the Lambs. A mentally ill patient whose name was not provided, who had been arrested and imprisoned, bragged about killing and raping women. The police entertained his stories because they consisted of so many details that only the real murderer would actually know about. The police knew that the mentally ill prisoner was incarcerated during the times of the murders that he claimed. The prisoner was persuaded by the authorities to provide a name of the friend responsible. The name of the actual killer that was provided was Ladislav Hodger. Hodger was a 28-year-old man who was born in the country of Czechoslovakia. No youth or family dynamic was available, but as an adult, he was always outspoken about how he despised women, having an extremely low opinion of them. Hodger was brought into the police department for an interview. During that interview, he confessed to all the homicides along with 3 additional others that the police were unaware of. The confessed total came to 7 women that he had murdered. The police believed that the body count was much higher because of at least 2 other women that they found deceased with the same modus operandi. Hodger was charged for 5 murders and went to trial. He was found guilty and was given a death sentence. In August of 1986, he was executed. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story. If so, hit the like button, subscribe, and also notification button so you can be reminded of new content I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Also, I'd appreciate comments in the comments section because I'm always looking for input on the videos and also the channel. God bless you and stay safe.